Welcome to the Great Distraction.
What's up, everyone? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is gender fluidity. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-host Thomas.
How's it going?
Glenn.
Hello.
And Shane.
Yo.
Thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. As always, we would love to hear from you guys. Questions, comments, and topic suggestions are always welcome. You can contact us on Facebook or by email at greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com.
Facebook. At Facebook. I feel like at some point in the near future, none of us are going to need our own personal email addresses or phone numbers. We'll all just be worked through Facebook.
Now, that's an interesting... Well, that could be a topic for a whole other thing.
Maybe we should write that down real quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. Then it would become what company or what type of entity do you want to put your communication trust into?
What was the one in Terminator or wait a minute?
Skynet? Oh, that's Google. That's been around forever.
Well, now we have Facebook.
Yeah, but I mean, so
it's
it would
the
have
Skynet,
you
dude.
would have to
Believe
pick.
me when I'm saying this to
It's
you.
the Skynet. Google is the Skynet.
Okay, Google is Skynet.
Facebook doesn't have enough information. They got a lot of information.
So what are they in the game?
Which do you want to, do you want to use your Facebook as your messenger or whatever? But you can't directly from the outside send something into Facebook. Somebody has to have a Facebook account in order to send you a message. So that's why
But everybody
can't.
will have one. It'll be assigned to you at birth.
I don't know. There's a huge movement right now for people to not use Facebook. It's taken a lot of flack right now and has been for the last
but you still see there's how many billions of people on it?
Yeah, well,
They'll get them eventually.
Right. But everyone
It's like we're going to complain about that racist poster at Starbucks. We're just still going to buy those damn Starbucks.
Yeah. Not the posters of Starbucks. Okay, gender fluidity. In one of our earliest episodes, it was episode 8, we did a topic called sexual orientation and gender identities. And in that episode, we covered the differences between the two because they are not the same thing, even though they do get confused quite often. And just a real quick recap of that: a sexual orientation is, for a vulgarness and a lack of going into further depth. If you really want to get into it, listen to the episode 8. But for the purposes of this a particular episode, and this topic, sexual orientation is basically what you are romantically attracted to, and/or.
But that's your choice, right? That's what you're saying not necessarily what you were born.
Let's leave choice or how it came about out of it. Let's just say at this point, it's what you're attracted to, what you want to have sex with or don't want to have sex with, and what you get turned on by, so to speak, what you're attracted to is what I say. And gender identity is what gender you personally, or an individual, I should say, identifies with. So one has to do with romantic interest, one has to do with what gender you feel you are.
But none of those are actually stating what your anatomical body has.
No, because you can. Well, then that's what we're getting into with this topic.
I just wanted to make that clear.
That's right. So today we're going to focus more on those that express their gender definition in an ever-changing manner. And I think, let me see here. I think I had a good Nope, not here. So gender fluid people fall under a larger category called non-binary genders, or non-binary gender. Period, not genders plural. And let's see, there was something else I wanted to note here. And oh man, yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry, I already said that. So let me reread this or read this definition from Wiki because I thought they kind of summed it up quite well. And from the Wiki page for non-binary gender, they say non-binary is a spectrum of gender identities that are not exclusively masculine or exclusively feminine identities. They are outside the gender binary. That's the gender binary, is the two, male or female, that we're all familiar with. Genderqueer is an earlier term for the same meaning. Non-binary people may identify as having two or more genders, being bigender or trigender, having no gender, agender, non-gender, genderless, gender-free, moving between genders or having a fluctuating gender identity, which is gender fluid, being third gender or other gendered, a category that includes those who do not place a name to their gender. Gender identity is separate from sexual or romantic orientation, and non-binary people have a variety of sexual orientations, just as transgender and cisgender people do. And for those that haven't heard our previous episode, if you are born male and identify with the standards and identify as being male and are heterosexual, meaning you like the opposite sex, you are a cis male. Actually, I'm sorry. Has nothing to do with sexuality. See, it still even gets me too. If you were born female and identify as female, meaning you came out with female parts and you feel like you're a girl, you are a cis female. So throwing the prefix of cis onto your gender means that you are and feel and
heterosexual.
No, again, has nothing to do with sexual. Again,
Okay.
it's very
confusing
difficult.
to me.
Yeah, what you want to have sex
Wouldn't
with
you
has
just be
nothing to do with
heterosexual?
your gender. So that's the thing. That's the part that you have
So
to
you'd
remember
be
with this stuff.
cisgender and heterosexual.
Yes.
Because I thought, man, maybe, let's just say, because these terms are changing all the time. So maybe heterosexual to most people meant what cis.
No, the terms aren't changing at all. You are confused.
This isn't Star Wars. It's not a Sith.
Sorry, I keep saying that one.
Cis. No. We have been cis male. Us. I don't want to speak to all you guys. I have been cis male all along. I just didn't have to have a name associated with it. Now there is a requirement to have a name to describe what.
It's not
what
really
you
a
are.
requirement.
It's not a requirement.
Yeah, I don't have to do it on my driver's license, do I?
If you wish to,
Give it 5
maybe.
years.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, give it
You
5
never
years.
know. Here in California, they may push for that. Let's see. The last part of that definition was a non-binary gender is not associated with a specific gender expression, such as androgyny. Non-binary people, as a group, have a wide variety of gender expressions, and some may reject gender identities altogether. Last definition was specifically for gender fluid. Gender fluid people often express a desire to remain flexible about their gender identity rather than committing to a single definition. They may fluctuate between differing gender expressions over their lifetime or express multiple aspects of various gender markers at the same time. They may at times identify as bigender, shifting between masculine and feminine, or as trigender, shifting between these as a third gender. There you go.
I'm confused.
That's
It's easy to become confused because your choices are set.
Are set.
what do you mean?
Yeah, so I mean, you're cis, heterosexual.
But
you
that's
don't-
only my choice. If
Well,
I
that's
cho-
your
if I
choice,
would
right?
If I would choose to be,
these confusing things are kind of outside of your realm of.
they are outside of
They're
my realm,
confusing
for
because
sure.
they're new. That's why.
Well, they are.
We haven't really dealt with this before. Other countries have dealt with it, and other people and cultures have dealt with it in various ways, not to the expanse of trying to include everybody in every variation possible like the U.S. is, that I know of.
But to kind of create some neutral terms
That's
so
right.
that people aren't forced into a category.
Yeah,
By categorizing?
Say by
what?
category, yeah.
by category. Don't. Yeah, and there. So I didn't read enough into this to really talk on it, but I did run into.
And why are we doing a podcast?
No. I mean, what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say, not the topic itself. Yeah, funny guy. No, there was a National Geographic article that was written about it was oh God, I can't remember what country it was in. I may have to go back and we may have to revisit this to talk about this one in particular. But they had found a certain tribe that had been essentially unaffected by any other culture or outside of its area for a long, long time. And they found interesting biological anomalies where these people, I wish I would have read more into it. I just didn't have time, and I didn't really want to take it this direction. But these,
we did.
These people were being born basically what we would call deformed. And later in life, when they hit puberty, they would kind of do a cross gender. So basically, they had women or girls being born with and growing up to the point of puberty, being extremely masculine, not tomboyish, but physical with like growing like a square shoulders and
But
more
they were
muscular.
anatomically a
but
woman?
they had a vagina with an oversized clitoris. When puberty hit, One of the only necessary, as I understand it, from this reading, do your own research. I didn't even research far enough into this to be talking about it. I didn't intend to mention it, but it's really kind of to what you had mentioned before. When they would hit puberty, apparently one of the only triggers that puberty needs is testosterone, high levels of testosterone for males to convert the rest of your, make your balls drop, make you grow muscle, make you grow hair. All that shit comes from testosterone. These girls that were born with these oversized clitorises and came out more masculine in other ways than just the genitalia, when they hit puberty and had that their brains some of them would dump a large amount of testosterone, and then that clitoris would actually turn into some sort of a type of penis, which made them some sort of a weird hybrid in between. And then for those that did get the dump, who just happened to, have that biologically happen to them, would be raised and live the rest of their lives as males. And the other side that didn't would remain as kind of masculine females. So, there are cases of really weird anomalies that genetically have been passed down among a untainted, if you will, groups of people.
Just as a tribe?
I'd have to pull up. I was just something I ran into when I was reading about gender fluidity and how people are raised.
This happens to a percentage of any population.
It does. Yeah, this was just an area they found where it seemed to happen.
Be more common.
Yeah, and happened so commonly that the culture of the people knew about it,
to it.
and had been happening for many, hundreds of years with these people, And so they knew about it, and they adjusted to it, and they compensated for it, and that was how their society was structured around such an influx of this type of people. They said now that since the article was also mentioning that since time has gone on and more people have, more scientists go in, there's not many tribes that are untouched anymore, right?
Yeah.
So since they have gotten involved,
they all wear Nike shirts.
Yeah, since they have gotten involved, they have helped them learn to identify what is going on with these babies when they're born, and then help them select their genders better, or help, I don't know. I didn't read far enough into what they were doing for these people, or if they needed to do anything at all. Because really, what why do you have to touch? Why does it have to be anything changed anyway? It's worked for them for a long time, and maybe they have no interest in changing. But
so they don't care about their binary.
And it does still seem like they did care about a bigender culture or a bigender society, because they would assign them still to. They just didn't know what
socially
they were.
They assigned them.
That's what it sounded from. Again, I didn't read that far into, but that's what it sounded like. Was the whole thing was we just don't know what you are until you hit a certain age, and those that will be confusing, we've got you sectioned off. Not in a shunned way, but in a we've identified
it's
you.
More or less a neutral things like we're waiting to see.
Yes. Yeah, until they hit
but
puberty.
But they were accepting of it because it was part of their
because
people.
It was so many people, had happened to so many people, yeah. And then it did sound like once you were finally decided, like after you had hit puberty, and okay, we've seen this before, looks like is what you're going to stay, so now here's
definitely not Russia.
What do they do in Russia?
Russia is so anti-gay, lesbian, it's freaking
Again,
real.
that's sexual orientation.
Well, I know, but just being anything other than the standard.
Oh,
so they
really
may be
anti,
trans,
everything. They're everything.
Well.
Russia's going to this crazy direction right now where they're just anti everything. But it's a very masculine society,
and they're also very religious too.
Yeah,
and so when you put those two together, then it
never equals a good.
There's no what's the term when you're
it's seal clubbing from there on out.
Seal club, Jesus.
Wow.
Damn. No. What's the term when you're not sympathetic to other types, but tolerant?
There's no tolerance.
There's no tolerance,
and it's almost like how our society is going right now with some racism kind of things. It's almost like reteaching it to like, hey, there's some those people who believe in this. Let's promote it. Stupidity. And that's kind of how Russia is going with gay and lesbian culture at this point. It's really sad.
Oh, interesting. I have not looked into anything other than there was enough to read in America's handling of it.
So let's get back to that.
Yeah. So getting back to that, as Thomas had already mentioned, these are confusing times as far as what's going on with the gender identity movements that's spreading all over the place, not just in America, but here in particular, what we always focus on is what's going on in the U.S. There are new standards, if you will, that are that basically define gender as entirely a state of mind and not what parts you are born with. And that's confusing to those that thought there was only two options to, well, I wouldn't say select from, but to be, right? And to make matters more confusing for everyone is that these options or various conditions, for lack of a better term, are most definitely being jammed down our throats. Everyone is being made very much aware of LGBTQ and gender identity differences in this country in all shapes and I mean, it's all over the media, right? Well, somebody's promoting it over the media. People are promoting it over the media. Entities and groups are forming. I mean, they have flags for all of these different types of representations. They do parades. They put them in TV shows. They do everything to literally jam it down our throats so that they make sure everyone is aware that these things exist. So it isn't going away, in my opinion. And that's one of the first things I wanted to start the conversation off with is, what do you guys think about that? It ain't going away.
I think it's ridiculous.
All right.
I personally don't understand why a heightened awareness of something is necessarily considered being jammed down your throat. They're not saying that you need to accept a certain thing. It's
But
just making sure.
But they are. Because if you aren't accepting it, then you're bigoted. They're trying to turn around a negative connotation for those that don't agree with it.
I think the understanding of what acceptance is, like, you have to be aware of it. If somebody, like, you don't want people to treat you like you're a girl, right?
No, I mean,
So you want people to be
yes.
aware that you want to be treated like a guy. That's just aware. You're not necessarily shoving that down people's throats, but that's something that you want people to be aware of, because it basically changes the way they interact with you, or dictates
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
It's the same with this, only these people are not the two sides that we've been given to choose from. They're somewhere in between. They just want you to be aware of it. So they're bringing awareness to the minority of these people that want to be treated a certain way.
Agreed.
Or to be identified. So that was the one thing
Now-
about the fluidity that I
Now,
was...
the jamming down your throat, I mean, that's either because you don't understand it, you don't know why it's important, or, I mean, there are certain people out there that are definitely more aggressive about going about it.
And that's what I was referring to, the way the media will not let it go. It's not being dropped anywhere.
Well, the
And being-
media, I don't even
The media,
know.
the media is how this is getting about, though.
Right, but the
That's the
media,
biggest,
they report on stuff that they think is going to be controversial. Anything
Of
that
course.
people are going to watch.
It's just to get people to pay attention.
They jam
Whether you're
things
going
down
to watch
people's
it,
throats.
yeah.
That's my
If you're going
point.
to watch it angrily or like be all for it, they just want people to watch it. They don't really care.
They jam things down people's throats.
Well,
That's
I
why I
think
use that
what-
term, not
what-
because of the topic, but
Well, I think more
their
so
methodology.
Well, okay, back to the methodology. I think more so what I feel, because of knowing you, what you're saying is that every 6 months there's a new topic that the media grabs on. There has to be something new to talk about all the time. New things. If we've already talked about, whatever this topic is, whether it's being just gay, lesbian. Okay, well, what's the next topic to talk about? So there's every little other thing to move to. So the media, I feel like, I agree with you, with Ben, in a lot of regards. I feel like the media does latch onto something that's a hot topic, because that's what people are talking about. They're just trying to get viewers, so they just want to talk about this. So they're going to shove it down your throat because they're just repeatedly talking about it over and over and
That's
over,
what I'm
pushing and
referring
pushing and push it. But at the same time, sometimes, I don't really like the media at all. I try to get information more of a rounded a way, I guess, than just turn it on a media or something.
Sure.
But at the same regard, there is, what Shane was talking about before, was there is as our population grows, and we talked about this a bit in the identity thing, there's more and more people that are going to be in these, I don't want to use the word subcategory and then somebody feels like I'm being mean to them, but to me, that's the only way I can state this, is like a subcategory of different things. Like if you're...
They are a subcategory.
You are a subcategory.
Everybody's a subcategory of something.
Well,
no matter
yeah,
who you,
but
what
I mean,
you are.
I'm not trying to say it in a negative
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
I'm just trying,
yeah.
because I'm trying to explain it. But okay, so you can say, well, you just say, okay, I'm a gay man. Okay, so but I identify in this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and it's like, okay, so for the other people to identify with you, it takes an education to the rest of the society to understand what these options are. That there's
right.
people out there, and I think it goes back to at one point, when humans were learning, well, that's a man, that's a woman. I mean, we had to start from the basics, and we've branched out. To me, I mean, I feel like we're branching out into so many of these subcategories. It's almost, I don't know. I don't know what some of the validity of some of these things are. Some of for me, like, I've known lots of gay people in my life. I work in the arts. A lot of people I've worked with are gay, different.
Remember, you're going into sexual orientation with gay.
Okay, I'm saying going into sexual orientation, but what I'm trying to, bigger conversation is what they identify as. And I feel like that's part of the fluidity thing. It's what you identify as. You can change how you identify day to day, whether you feel more masculine or more feminine, right?
That's
That's
what
part of
they're
the
saying.
fluidity.
Yeah, I don't, but that's
okay.
what they're saying. Yes,
but that's the part of it. So, but what to me is strange is like, okay, like I'm a very acceptant person of anybody's anything. If you tell me this is how you want to be called, Dave, I'll call you Dave. If you tell me that you're a woman, I'm going to address you as a woman. I'm okay with everybody being exactly who they are, but it's getting confusing to keep up with and to be. We're not just like, I'm a very compassionate person, so I'm all about trying to like I said, identify with people and like, dude, I don't give a crap what you are. You're cool to me, I'm cool to you. That's where I kind of make my judgment. And I think, Glenn and I talked about this a bunch. I don't give a shit what you are. If you're cool, if you're a dick, then you can go to hell. I think it's, we bear this down, but to try to be politically correct and to state everybody's perfect choice for the day, that's a really tough call to make to other people, to a request of the rest of people.
That argument and that discussion, or that angle of the discussion, rather, sounds exactly how we started off eliminating or dealing with the condition of racism. What you just described is exactly the etiquette challenge that was put before all of the white people in America, for example.
Right.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. So social etiquette, that's exactly where I was taking what I had left next here on the notes. Social etiquette does as it has always done. It changes. And if we do not learn to keep up with how to interact with people of different backgrounds, choices, whatever, colors, then we end up just like, we'll end up the same way. I'm sure you've heard it before when you were younger, or from some of your friends. Oh, my grandfather, he doesn't like black people. He was just raised different times. It's going to be the same thing with this gender thing. Oh, that's my friend came over he's a guy and he was wearing a dress, and your kid or your grandkid will bring over a guy, a friend that's a boy wearing a dress, and they'll have to make an excuse for you. Oh, he identifies today as
Is
female.
it Halloween?
Yeah, he identifies.
He just doesn't.
As
he just never got it. Yeah.
So it's going to be the same situation all over again. So if we don't snowflake it, then we will be stuck in our generation with the mindsets that we were born and raised with, and not able to identify and accept what will change and what will be forced to be accepted, will be part of society.
Well, I think with that statement, when you're kind of going back to that, it reminded me of another thought. It's like, okay, so like, let's look at some average people. So you just said they were raised in that generation. I think
we are raised in this generation.
Well, when you were talking about your grandparents or somebody who doesn't like black folks or whatever, racism. They say racism. They say, oh, it was raised that way. Okay, so I think one of the things that we are trying to accomplish as a culture in our current time, maybe, and I think this is one of the things that's becoming more challenging, is, and for me, for sure, I don't want to be like my grandparents who were stuck. They were raised that way. They didn't adjust to the culture as it adjusted. So somebody who was born in an America where it was very common to be racist, because it was for a long period of time, who didn't adjust to the world changing, is probably still thinking that way. I think our generation, or maybe one of the first generations, is trying to constantly change to continue to grow throughout our entire lifetimes. I don't want to be 70 years old and people say, well, that's just the way he was raised. Well, I want to adjust to the real world as it's changing.
Himself.
Well, that depends on your perspective, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be those people.
Well, exactly.
And you can tell by talking to them that they have decided that they
tons of
don't
people.
Want to get this.
So let's stay on the racism thing, and let's imagine that we are back 100 years ago, and that all of us were raised in an area where there were nothing but white people, no other races to identify with, right? Let's say that the first African American person moved into the neighborhood. Now you can't call them a Negro, or you can't call them the N word. You can't call them any of these derogatory terms in reference to people that you never even saw. Now
you can.
Well, you can, but social. We're trying to describe the political correctness of social
I've got a
etiquette.
First Amendment right to say whatever the hell I want to say.
We're going along the lines, Glenn, that we're assuming we're going to try and establish political correctness, because that's what we're talking about here.
They can get pissed at me. I can get pissed at them. We can have a little fight. We'll get along great after that.
We should have worked it out.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to adjust
All
society,
you got to do is show up
to
with a
this-
nice bowl, and Glenn will like you.
There you go.
Glenn and I are in the same boat. You're a cool dude, and you show up with a bowl. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
You might look like
I don't
Pat
care
from
what you identify
as.
as.
There you go. You can look like Pat from SNL.
Right? That's cool with me. You're cool with me. We're friends. We share a bowl. We're good to go.
Well, so I was trying to play off of the that there's too many options being presented, because it was the same thing with racism. We had one, and when the
I
beginning
agree.
it was just one black person. Okay, I see black. I understand that's a type of person that's going to be around. But then we have, and so then there was Mexicans. Okay, now there's brown. There's black and brown. Okay, well, I have two I have to worry about. Now I've got black and brown, and then I've got Asian. Okay, now I've got yellow. Okay, so I've got these three colors now. I'm good. Everybody fits into these three colors. We are still dealing
racist
with
ass.
Yes. Well, that's how the people looked at it, man.
You forgot about the red people that were here before you.
Okay,
Right?
so
Right.
my point is that even today we are still having problems politically correctly identifying all of the different races that are around us. If you're Hispanic, there's like 15 different countries that get thrown into Hispanic.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we still have this
Yeah,
problem.
I'm Puerto Rican, dude.
Yeah, exactly. There
I
it is.
am.
Yeah. There you go. So you assign Puerto Rican as Hispanic, and they're like, "No, I'm Puerto Rican." No, you're Hispanic,
it's-
buddy.
yeah.
So
Well, it's
here's
just
my
like-
same
yeah.
problem. It's the same exact thing with this gender stuff. You have most people who we're going back 100 years where everybody's black or white, and we don't want any other shades of anything else, right? As people start identifying, because right now, not only are people identifying and coming out about their identities, the whole concept of being able to identify with something different is new.
Yes.
So it's even more complex than racism, because at least racism, everybody was like, no, dude, I know where I come from. I know what color I am. You don't know, and you don't know how to address me. But
And you don't have to, yeah.
yeah, but I know what I am. So the difference is that in the gender identity, some people know I'm not this, but some people are very confused, and they're like, wow, I have options now. So what am I? And some people are changing from one to the other. So that adds a whole new level of variables and complexity to the social acceptance and how the rest of us from an older generation deal with and interact and identify these people from an external point of view.
I don't understand why we need these labels to begin with. Can't we just
So
all be human?
This is, I think, what the true problem is that I think the human condition dictates to us to some degree that we need to categorize people. And the fact that we have categories is the problem, right?
So we need to
'Cause-
just eliminate all genders, all...
Because the whole bigender
Well, I think
means there's two.
Right.
You get to pick one of two. But if there was none, then you don't have to pick anything.
Right, just
And
human.
so
We'll get rid of he and
the
she out of the
complexity
language.
here-
We'll phase it out. It could just be...
That's what's caused the problem. So people are like, "Oh, we're gonna have 1,000 of these, and and it's like, well, we never had to have one in the first place. That's
Right.
the problem, is that we started making them, and now you have to choose what category you're supposed to fall into.
Well, I
Why
think-
do you have
yeah.
to choose? Why?
So a lot of people want to choose, and,
Well, I think-
and they want to be able to promote it.
And they also want to be able to be offended by something.
Sure.
Well, maybe
in
they
a lot
have
of
a
these situations.
Well, as we've talked about anything, maybe there's
With profanity,
profit to be.
yeah.
Maybe there's profit
Well,
to
that
be
too.
made.
There's always profit. to be made.
Profit!
But
Yeah.
but what I was saying before about, like, I feel like we're in a generation that's really trying to identify with these things and roll with them. Like, I don't think in lots of generations before people were like, oh, there's people are different, I'm just going to hate them. I feel like in my generation we're trying to, like, the world, we identify that the world is evolving and more intermixing of everything is happening, so that it's not going to be the status quo that we had 50 years ago. You know, I mean, everything's evolving and changing. So identifying with that and not being some old person that thinks stupid, barbaric beliefs about people.
Yeah.
But I think in the future, the way this all is going, and Shane kind of pointed that direction, the way some of this is going, I feel like we are going to get to the point where maybe we switch to a mode where we're so acceptant that the future human existence is a one.
Do you guys remember?
Person.
Do you-
Like humanity?
Yeah, like there isn't
do
man
you guys
and
remember
woman
the movie
there anymore.
Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember the shots, the scenes where the huge crowds were out there and it was all the wealthy people looking at the higher echelon society looking at the games and all that stuff? If you recall, the way they dressed, this has stuck with me ever since that movie came out. The way they all dressed, you couldn't really tell what was male and female. I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
So, and I've always thought about that because I've thought about this topic many times. And even back when we first started with the episode 8, right?
Yeah.
I've always thought that was a great rendition of what the future will look like because the styles that people wear and the associations they have won't have
everything's
a gender
unisex.
assigned. Yeah,
like clothing is becoming more unisex
and
in the last few
cross-platforming.
years.
If there's guys that want long eyelashes and wear makeup, really bright makeup, they will wear that too and combine. And so will girls if they like that. It's just whatever it is you find.
And people have always done that.
True, but it hasn't been as socially acceptable as it's kind of coming to be now. It's very much
on
in its
a large
infancy.
scale.
Yeah.
So should all just start rocking eyeshadow and lipstick?
I mean, if things are
that's
heading,
how you identify.
if things are going to continue the way they are,
Too low maintenance.
Right. Yeah, just getting me to shave is too much of a hassle.
there it is, Glenn. You're not going to be ready for this new world, buddy.
Oh shit!
You're gonna have to buy a lot more stuff for the bathroom.
Yeah, you're going to need a bigger bathroom, dude.
A couple more mirrors. You got to see for the front and the back now.
And-
Really?
Got to pay attention to how you look behind you.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's not just coming; it's going.
Oh man. It's interesting to think about too that the next generation is going to have this from day one.
Yeah.
It's not
just
going
like
to be
the
a
iPhone.
new Yeah,
Millennials
exactly.
already pretty much are up to speed on them.
I mean, the ones that are being born now, they won't even remember a time that
I think millennials are largely like that because I know a lot of them that grew up with this being fairly normal.
Yeah, they don't even know what a landline is.
Right.
Wow.
I'm serious. Think about that for a second. A landline?
Yeah.
What is that?
The good old dial tone.
Oh,
Right?
So
When was the last time you
before
picking
internet.
up the fax line?
modem. So I mean, I think that the term snowflake actually falls into this greatly.
big time.
The fact that we live in a time where that's an actual insult is astounding to me. When I hear people like,
Yeah, it
I'm not
sucks that it's an
insulted
insult.
by being. It's like, are you telling me because of my individuality I should be insulted by you calling me individual? Like,
Yeah.
What
That's
kind of
essentially what it is? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it just
Oh,
it strikes me as really odd.
That too, in somebody
Well,
who's
I think snowflacks are cool. They're pretty.
that.
But have you
And
ever
they're
looked at the one with the magnifying glass? They're freaking
freaking
awesome.
amazing. If you've never looked up macro photography of snowflakes, dude, do yourself a favor.
That's some fascinating shit.
The
If you want to
natural-
call me a snowflake, you're cheers, dude. Whatever.
I mean,
I think you should go
what
ahead
are
and
you
put on
trying
that
to
eyeliner.
And then the flip side is, what are you trying to say about yourself? Is that you're so cut out of other groups that you're not even
Well, no, the snowflake.
an individual?
They're just a
You're
little ball of hail.
yeah.
Compressed little frozen chunk.
The snowflake mentality has both the strong and the negative. against
That's
it,
well
right?
said, because that may, it's a bunch of snowflakes probably stuck together into one big gob.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it no longer has any
I like that.
individuality. It's just massive.
Yeah, it's just a gob of ice.
Right.
It hurts when it hits you.
They're all delicate though.
Got to
Very,
kill a lot
very
of snowflakes to make a snowball.
Damn.
Cause damage to my car, man.
That could be metaphorical too. There, you gotta kill.
Right?
You gotta destroy a lot of snowflakes to make a snowball. Oh man. And that's how categories are born and stereotypes.
Scary.
You guys are too much. Where did I find you guys at?
I don't know.
So there was a situation.
I was camping on the curb.
Yeah. Picked up a hitchhiker and he never left. There was a situation. I was at a Sears. Let me throw this little story out there for
Those still exist?
no good reason. No, it didn't actually. This is no, it doesn't anymore. But this was
Okay.
before they closed, right? And they were closing down.
This is
as
a
matter of fact.
historical document.
That's right. This is a historical event. But it was something that stuck with me and was very much an applicable situation to the changing time. The times they are changing, right? So I'm at this Sears, and I'm returning something that I bought online. There was all kinds of deals when Sears was going out of business.
Yeah.
For those that don't remember, it was a department store who don't have them. Well, shit. I mean, everybody should have known what a Sears Roebuck was at some point, but nevertheless, it was a department store that sold clothes and tools. They made Craftsman and a lot of other stuff. But anyway, so I was returning a tool that was a good deal I found online because the stores were all closed now. They were clearing a lot of stuff out. And I didn't end up liking it because, like typical Craftsman, it was no good. So, so I ended up taking it back, and I'm at the return.
I'm starting to learn why this place went out of business.
Yeah, well, they used to be really
Because
good
Ben
back
said
in the
they're no
day,
good.
but then they switched to cheap Chinese manufacturing, and their tools were never the same. But anyway, I'm making a return at the return counter. I'm not paying attention to the people who work there because, I mean, a lot of people are so, you're busy in your day, you're running in, I got to return this, I got a bunch of other things to worry about. I'm not even looking at who the hell's on the other side of the return counter, to be honest. I take it up there, I give my receipt, I tell the person, hey, I can't remember what the hell it was or why I was returning it, but nevertheless, this thing didn't work out for me, and I just wanted to return it and, be on my way. There were two people up there, and I was kind of discussing what the problem was. At this point, still, I hadn't even, and it dawned on me afterwards because I felt really stupid. Like, dude, I didn't even pay attention to who the hell it was I was talking about. That's not like me. Usually I pay attention to all the people around me, situational awareness and just identifying who it is you're talking to and that kind of stuff. For some reason, this one slipped past me. I must have just been real busy. I was on my way home from work, whatever, right? So I'm discussing this situation and I'm talking to two people. One of them, I do remember, did very much look like a guy. And okay, so I identified him as a male. Cool. And then I made a comment, or how do I say, I used a descriptive term within my comment, and I referenced the other person who was actually doing my return as a he. I said something like, well, he just told me, something like that, right? Nothing derogatory, nothing really that serious, just he just said, but I used he. I looked up for some reason after I had said that to the person who just said what they just said. He was like, this person, he said, right? And I saw in that person's face a look of disappointment or kind of a little ting of how do I something, just the smallest little minute
Not
and
happy.
physical, yeah, kind of like I had kind of hurt their feelings, and I was like, what the fuck? Why did they what did they do? And then I paid attention to who it was I was talking to. It had a frame, and I don't mean to use it because at this point I didn't know what the hell I was dealing with. This person had a frame like a guy. Maybe early 20s, teenage, late out of high school, something like that, early 20s, young. It had a frame like a male. And so I thought I was talking to a guy. But then when I snapped out of my daze and paid attention to who it was I was talking to, I noticed the little barrettes in the hair and the little tufts of like ponytail things set up and a little bit of makeup and very form-fitting clothing. And I immediately, when I got out of my daze, I paid attention. Like, okay, I identified that I was talking to somebody who was obviously in some sort of a transition or not a he and didn't like that I called them a he or that particular gender identity. And I was like, that experience stuck with me because I thought, fuck, the first thing I thought was, dude, that was stupid. Like, I should have paid attention to who I was talking to. I didn't want to offend anybody. And I just like Thomas described, I don't care what you're into. I just don't want to hurt your feelings for no reason. But you also have to understand at the same time, you are in a position in this time and period that is new to a lot of people. And people are not going to get it. People do not get deal with change
Not
well.
easily, yeah.
Not at all. No humans do as a huge group. The masses are asses. So I felt immediately bad that this had happened and that I had done this, but it was too late. What am I going to do? Backpedal and apologize? I can't fucking apologize to this person. It's already done. Damage is already done. And it's only going to make it even more awkward if I try and pedal my way out of it. But that experience stuck with me because I did not correctly identify the person I was speaking to, and I offended them. And that sucks. But more of that is to come.
Well, it reminds me of the story when we were doing, I can't remember what episode, I was telling a story about, I have a longtime friend who wants to be identified as a woman now. And when the last time I spoke with him, I had to sit down, have a long talk with him, like, look, dude, I'm cool with you, whatever. And the expression was, from him was that, he was upset that other people weren't immediately like okay with it. And I said, well, that's very selfish of you to immediately assume that everybody else can roll with the changes that you make as easily as you do. Because some people have made friendships with you as a certain person who you've ID'd yourself with them a long time ago. And they've built a relationship with you based on that identity. And now you're changing it. And so you're asking all of your friends in the world to immediately, as soon as you make that decision, to all be cool with it. Well, it doesn't work like that no matter what you do. Anything you do in life, you can't just be like, oh, I did this forever and I'm going to change it. Everybody's cool with that, right? No matter what it is, no matter it's your identity, where you live, where you work, any
political association,
your political association,
your
any of those
religious
things,
background,
all that stuff. You can't just like flip the script and be mad at the world because they're not totally 100% on your side.
But partly what's to blame for that though is we have genders to choose from, and you have known them as a specific thing.
That's what I was
pretty
saying
much
about
your
my
entire
friend.
life.
And so
I
some
mean,
of his
yeah,
friends were like, I don't know, I'm going to have to, maybe not,
you-
maybe this won't work. And I was like, that you're just going to have to accept that from them.
If that wasn't something that they had to be identified with at all, it wouldn't be quite so hard for you to change.
Good
and I can
point.
tell even still, you call him a he
I
because
do, 'cause
you've
that's
known him
30
as
years.
a he your entire life.
Yeah.
But if we didn't have that word, there would probably never be a problem.
That's true.
Perhaps.
I'm with you. I like this. Let's just get rid of all gender assignments.
And that's where I think where it's going to head to. But the reason,
But it seems like until then, we have to have all
That's
these
right. We're in an interim.
subcategories.
Well, it's going to
and
be a struggle because we have already learned what
we have to
society
categorize
is.
everybody. For you to be able to, for me to identify with you, I have to have a word or a category. So let's just abolish those. I'm with Glenn. Let's just abolish those now.
that's exactly where I was going with this too, because I wanted to provide a couple of examples of why
That won't work in America, though.
Yeah, well, it will eventually. Why one gender, why a person switching from one gender to another is confusing enough. When you introduce the situation we're talking about with the topic of this episode, gender fluidity, now you have someone going back and forth. It's not
Right, but if you eliminate the concept
That's-
of the
yes.
gender, you totally devaluate that entire point.
Yeah, he's in a dress today.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever.
Okay.
I wore mine last week.
But does that push a culture an entire culture to be bisexual?
Like, that's
No,
again, you're
I guess
talking
you're
about
talking
sex-
about-
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
it doesn't
not
matter.
not terming it, but I'm saying if the fluidity is the option where you can be anything.
We're just talking about the clothes you wear, though, in this case, or how,
You know, drag queens many male drag queens are not gay, right?
yeah.
Okay, same concept,
Yeah.
same exact concept. You can
so
wear
they just want to dress differently.
It's really crazy to think about because we're not used to these
What
concepts.
I'm saying
but this
is,
totally
if
what's
we
coming.
remove all of that
Yes.
and nobody,
let's just
and-
all screw it. Let's get rid of the gender titles. Let's get rid of clothing altogether. Everybody just run around naked.
I don't want to see everybody.
I mean, we would still need a lot of sunscreen. At least I would,
true.
because that
Right.
would
and there's
be
a lot,
all bad for
and
me.
there's like 90% of the population I don't want to see naked.
I'm gonna
90.
go.
you may
I'm
not, you
gonna
may
go
not have
higher
a
than
choice,
that.
though.
They haven't even.
I mean-
you know what? Maybe not in our lifetimes because they haven't even freed the nipple yet.
They have not done that. That's
Right.
Have not freed the nipple.
Canada, New
Oh,
York.
man.
amazing.
You can be naked in some cities. It's legal.
In New York, you can be
in
topless.
San Francisco,
Sacramento.
too.
San
I don't
Francisco.
know about Sacramento. Is there
think
a place?
so.
San Francisco for sure.
I'm going to say right now, Sacramento's a city I don't want to see a lot
New
of
York?
people naked.
New York has. That's
You
what
can be
the-
topless in New York. That's
Topless.
Yeah.
Oh, they freed the nipple.
Yep.
No
Yep.
shit.
They're very European.
Is
I
that
don't
their
know
problem?
about all that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd never heard that, but okay.
It took
No,
a
New
long
York.
time.
Well, New York has a lot more European.
I know the
influence
East.
than
Well, that's
anybody
because
else.
that's where the country started is on the East Coast. I've heard the whole East Coast has a much more
It has.
European mentality,
Yeah.
but I've never been over there and never really wanted to. But there you go. I've
But the
heard
first
that.
time you see a soap commercial in Europe,
A soap
yeah, like I remember I was in Holland and randomly on TV and there was a commercial and this girl was using the soap and they were talking about soap and you saw everything. She's
a commercial on TV,
yeah,
really?
yeah. It wasn't
Oh,
like
man,
they
that's-
stood there and did a frontal view for
Yeah,
her,
yeah.
but it
You
was
just
just part of the
pass through it
commercial.
or something.
Yeah,
Can see the boob on TV, huh?
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's like, oh, soap. This is how it works.
Oh my
Just
god!
goes
a
to show
human
how
body.
sheltered we are.
We are very sheltered.
Oh,
It's
man.
almost sad to make that statement. Oh, really?
Hey, look, an
Boobs
individual.
on
it's your
TV. Oh my
species.
god.
Right.
Boobs.
Yeah.
In terms of shelter, let's move on to the next part I wanted to talk about here.
Shelter.
Speaking of shelters, one of the biggest things in the media for the last few years regarding this topic has been which bathroom these people who have these identity situations.
Is that because we're
have
trying to
use.
assign something though, or is what's?
Well, there you go. There's now you started the question off great. Is that because we have to assign a bathroom to them? Okay, well, right off the bat, we might say no. Why do they need a special bathroom? Well, let's take the example of you're at the gym and you're in the locker room, and you are, let's say you're a girl and you're in the locker room, and all of a sudden a guy walks in and into the locker room and starts undressing with all the girls. But today, that person identifies as a female. So he walked into the female locker room and started changing with everyone. How does anyone know that? What the situation is? Why is he in there? Is that appropriate? Therein lies the problem. So you are at a urinal and all of a sudden a girl walks up and starts trying to pee in the urinal with you. Or a different urinal, not next to you. And you're like, this is a little weird. most of the considerations that I've seen for for these situations it seems to me more to expose, educate, and get everybody else comfortable with it. The people who deal with this daily in their lives for their own personal sense, or people that they know very closely, they are already comfortable or on their way to being comfortable with learning to deal with it. It's everybody else they have to, deal with. But that's where the bathroom thing comes from, is what bathrooms do they use?
Well, if you're making a decision to not conform with societal norms,
You got problems.
You get to expect what comes with it.
And that's with everything, too. If you want to be goth and paint your hair black and
Dude.
everything
Yeah,
and
you're
paint your
gonna-
fingernails, you're going to look weird. I'm sorry.
You're talking to a punk rock kid.
Yeah,
To go back to what I mentioned earlier, though, if there isn't a man and a woman on the doors in the first place, then it doesn't matter. They don't need their own bathroom. They just need the bathroom that everybody else is
So
using.
you can make, what if you keep locker rooms designated to physical gender, right?
Or what if it's open to anybody and
Sure,
they have
okay.
private areas where you can go to if you want to
that
get
costs-
naked
that
or
costs
want to
money to
have a
develop
private
it, yeah.
space,
Yeah, that's a great idea, but that costs money to build out buildings like that and then retrofit them and whatever. So
Well, we're already building two separate places for two different, if it was all one place, maybe then we would have rooms for some private areas.
Or you have all the bathrooms be single stall.
that's the thing. So that's what I see more often than not. So I don't
Well,
know.
you can give the option of urinals if people want to use them.
Sure, but put them in the single stall.
Put them in
You
both.
can, but I mean, I don't see any reason why not just
Well,
have urinals.
you get
as normal.
because you're separating each individual person's own space. You
Yeah,
don't have
but
to worry
I
about
don't- I don't
sharing
know
a
if
space
it's
with anything. You
totally
eliminate the spot.
necessary to do that, because if people are willing to walk up to a urinal next to another person and use it, then you're not
Right,
just
but
saving
what if
space
I
now.
don't want them to come in with me?
Well, I mean, you have a choice to go to the stall,
Right,
so you can choose
single
your
stall
interaction.
bathroom.
No, he's talking about the stall in the bathroom,
Oh, okay.
multiple stalls, but yeah.
You can have both.
So-
that way you can choose what you want. And again, the urinals save a lot of space.
Sure.
If you had to wall up everything.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm not
But
arguing
you
against
can
urinals.
do both. Some bathrooms have like 20 stalls in there, and maybe 30 free. So I mean, there's choice. And I know people that don't want to pee in the urinal, so they'll go to a stall, and they can.
I don't know how it's changing across the country, but in over here in Sacramento, California, a lot of areas of California, a lot of bathrooms or built, let's say restaurants, buildings, whatever, public places are switching their male and female bathrooms to unisex bathrooms. So they literally change the sign and put unisex on there instead. So there isn't a male or female. There's just two bathrooms, which I love because there's less lines, and I'm sure a lot of girls like too because the girls' lines are always longer in the. So now you have two bathrooms that you could potentially use now. Is one dirtier than the other? I don't know, because girls can be just as gross as guys. So I'd say I'd
Absolutely.
remove
Humans
that one.
are nasty.
Yeah, I'd say remove that one from your head because both people are dirty if they're going to be pissing and shitting all over the place. So
Right.
don't expect to get away from that, regardless of which bathroom you're using. But it opens up another issue. And the sad part about this issue is that it gets played two ways. And that issue is the people who would use this to their advantage for nefarious reasons. Let's say I want to go check out all the chicks changing in the girls' locker room. And I say, and I walk in there and I'm like, dude, girls, don't worry. Today I identify as female. I'm going to sit here and watch you all change. So there's that person who will do that. Or worse, there is any number of sexual predators or pedophiles that will use that type of stuff to their advantage. Now, that really can happen, and I'm sure will happen if it hasn't already.
I'm
the
sure it has.
problem with that, admitting that openly, is that the people who are very against this have used concerns such as that to classify people who have gender identity situations that differ from their own, classify them as nefarious characters. So basically,
I can understand how an nefarious character would take on that role to perform these acts.
absolutely. But what I'm saying is they have turned it to say that all people who are gender fluid are sexual predators. They use that fear to make
Yeah.
you afraid.
Well, that's an American thing. Use
Very
the fear.
much. They've done it
to-
with gay people forever,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a
So they
huge-
can use
they're
their
doing it
religious
all.
belief to
yeah.
fucking-
And mostly it's irreligious people doing it, but it's a very old tactic that they've used forever, and and it works unfortunately because people who have, especially if you grew up in an area and to this day still haven't really dealt with anyone who is a gender fluid person or cross gender or whatever the situation is. If you've dealt with nothing but cis heterosexuals your entire life, you have no real way. You feel very uncomfortable. You can potentially feel very uncomfortable the first time you deal with it. Now you put a negative spin on it via the media that you heard. Oh man, I heard all those people are sexual predators. They want to rape my little kids and whatever.
We did that
So
with gay
teach your
people.
kids
Oh,
how
that's
to
what I'm saying.
shoot
Yeah,
and give
they
them a gun.
Yeah. See, there you go. So
Hey,
that's the
Watch out, kids.
That's the negative spin that they put on it. And now people who are in this situation have to live with
We've done
that.
this with black people as well.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
This is
They're all
throughout time.
criminals.
Anyone
We've done
who's
the same
different,
thing every
yeah.
single time.
Yep.
Anyone who's different.
It's a very
is-
white Christian way of approaching
it
the
is,
world.
yeah. If you're not like us, you're the enemy.
I mean, people have been abused in bathrooms.
Oh,
Yes.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
How is it possible if they've got genders on the door that they don't care about that? They're bad people and they will do
Yeah,
what
they
they
walked in
want.
the bathroom anyway.
They will go into the ladies' room or they will force them into the men's room. It happens regardless of what's on the door.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of like gun laws, right? They only work on law-abiding citizens.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's something that is definitely getting pushed out there. Is that there are people using the potential for sexual predators misusing those types of bathrooms, for example. And that was the big one that I heard with that.
Yeah, that was a lot of I feel like that was a lot of the like Christian American argument.
Oh, it is. It always
that,
is.
for
It's always
sure.
spawned by the churches.
Yeah.
They-
Oh, my kids.
All
my
the hate
kid.
comes
Oh,
from
it's
the
the
churches.
kids.
Yeah.
We're worried about the kids.
Worry about the kids.
Oh, it's not us. We're okay with it. We're worried about the kids. Yeah, bullshit, lady.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't align with their beliefs, so
Yeah.
they have to find a way to.
You're different than us.
Yeah.
We're gonna resist you in every way possible.
How
So-
dare you be different?
Right.
That's the big push for having their own bathrooms. But another issue with that is that even if you did go the their own bathroom route, a dedicated bathroom for people who identify with different genders. What are you going to do? Retrofit every single building to have a third bathroom when it only had two? I mean, think about a Starbucks. A Starbucks is small enough to have two bathrooms, and some of them are barely small enough.
Sometimes they only have one.
Oh, see, there you go. I mean, some of them are not even big enough for two.
And I think in a lot of gas stations and stuff, especially in California and especially in the Bay Area, when I go there, I don't see men and women signs much anymore in bathrooms.
Yeah, I know. It's like I said. That's what I mentioned earlier. It's going
Yeah.
away as it is. It's unisex bathrooms now.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's a
actually
single.
new. I think it's a new ADA code.
Is it? I didn't realize that had been pushed out. That's awesome.
But what-
like I said, I love it because it's another option for me to use the restroom and not have to wait in line.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, for
Yeah,
me,
it's
I
just
love
a
it.
it's just a restroom, and in a lot of countries they don't look at it like we do at all. But to me, I feel like if it's a single stall, kind of like Glenn was saying before about the single stall thing, that's what reminded me of like the gas station because a lot of that's just a single stall. It's just one person can be in there at a time,
Right.
And it's got a urinal and it's got a toilet,
Right. And the door shuts,
And the door
locks behind
shuts.
you. Nobody else comes in until you're done.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think the problem that a lot of people is like if it's multiples, like you were saying before, like you go to a gym and here's the women's side, here's the men's side, and immediately it's all our kids and this and that.
I guess that is the bigger concern because if it's individual stalls, yeah, it's not an issue. But yeah,
Yeah.
what do you do when you're in a
So
public?
you keep the locker rooms, the changing rooms separated from the bathrooms.
You could.
And then the changing room is for this physical gender.
And maybe
Regardless of how
or
you
it could be
identify.
any individual, right? If it's single changing rooms,
Sure.
then it doesn't
single
matter
change.
who goes in
just
there.
like when you go
Well,
to
yeah.
a Target and you want to try on a pants,
Totally, you could do that. Why not?
right?
like
But
fitting
then there
rooms.
may be people that don't care that they're getting naked in front of the other gender.
and there
personally,
are.
I don't give a
Yeah.
shit, but
Yeah. So I mean, they may just decide to just do it in front of their locker, just like they always have.
right. But give them the option to have the little
Right.
changing stall thing where they can go and be private.
Private spot.
I know we all get there, but
feel comfortable.
the first time you see a really old dude buck naked flossing his ass with the gym towel,
What
it
has
leaves
been
an
seen cannot be unseen.
it leaves an impression, man.
It's like the first time you go to Miami and go, oh, this is a topless beach? Cool. And then you go, oh, shit, she's like 90.
Everybody I didn't want to see topless is here.
That
Awesome.
may be
Pretty
a
much
moment
is.
where you choose to use that private space just so you don't have to see the other stuff.
Right?
Yeah. Private space can have multiple uses there.
Totally. It's your safe spot.
Safe spot. It's all about the safe spot.
I do like the idea of the fitting room setup. Again, it's just it would come down to construction costs. It sounds great to say that, but man,
And also, how much hand holding do we really intend to do, people?
that's the other thing.
Seriously, we need to make a fuss about this. We've been changing in front of each other.
Well,
For the long,
but we haven't been changing in front of the opposite sex. So if you have, again, same thing.
Right.
If you have a male locker room, you have a female who's identifying as male, walks in, starts changing in front of you. I mean, in front of everybody, that's an issue. That can be an issue. Not
Sure.
everybody's comfortable with
I mean,
changing in front of somebody they don't know the opposite gender.
frankly, if somebody came in and started undressing in front of my family, then I'd want to kick their ass.
Well, there's the problem.
There you go.
There you go. That defines the problem. It's like, how do you handle that situation? That's why there was such a big thing with the bathroom situation, with what bathroom they should use, or what locker room in this case that we came up with.
But how does that attach to gender fluidity?
Gen-
Gender fluidity. I kept told you earlier. I kept saying that.
Had
I
to
can't
happen
say those
eventually.
words.
So yeah,
Those words are too similar to me.
The association with gender fluidity is because now it is in that you have people who are every day or every week or every month switching with what gender they identify with. So what bathroom do they use?
The one that they have the physical plumbing for,
So now, if we go
Or
that
just
route,
the one.
or just the one.
The single stall.
Single stall.
but that's assuming that you have a brand new building that was built with that stuff in mind. You know, a lot of people aren't going to
point.
have that. But that's why gender fluidity plays into this, is because a person who is gender fluid can change on a whim or
And
every other week.
And it doesn't matter how you associate with other people. If you want somebody that, fine, be that way.
Yeah, that's
If you have the plumbing of a male, use the male's restroom.
and that could be a social etiquette until there's some other option.
Yeah,
or-
it could be
I mean,
social etiquette, but yeah, that's I think it was the biggest problem is like if you say, well, it doesn't matter what I have. This is how I feel. I have the freedom to make the choice that I feel feminine today.
You're welcome to feel feminine, but doesn't mean that you get the right to use.
That has its own problems though as
Right.
well. Actually, the third separate bathroom is probably more safer for trans people, because the people that get assaulted most in bathrooms are those people that people think that shouldn't be in there.
Sure.
So those are the people actually taking the risk when they go into a bathroom. It's
those
not
are-
the regular people.
Right.
Those are also two people who have out what you're describing. I think, if I'm understanding correctly, as people who have taken it upon themselves to outwardly change their appearance. So, like, say, for example, a cross-dresser. You see a guy dressed in a dress and a wig and all this stuff. You can tell that is not all the time, but a lot of times you can tell that is a male who is who is transgender or cross-dresser or whatever, or drag, and they are dressing like the opposite gender. But in the case of gender fluidity, that's a person who has chosen to outwardly present themselves that way. A person who looks just like you and me might decide, like I may walk up to you today just as I am right now and say, today I'm a female. So I'm going to go into the female restroom because today I identify as a female. I'm not giving you any other signs or any other indication that I may be something different other than a cis heterosexual cis male identifying as a male. The problem would come in when you have people who have done nothing to change themselves and just straight up walk into the other bathroom. Now,
Well, then it becomes a situation of like you decide to do that and you walk into the women's bathroom and there's a woman there who doesn't even know what.
Never
what
even
you're
heard of this
talking about.
concept.
Never heard of it. And she's a 70-year-old lady and she's like, this guy walked into my bathroom.
and she's pulling the mace out of her purse.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the.
So when I got married, I had a bachelor party at Fanny Ann's. They have men and women's bathrooms, but they have arrows or placards that point to the opposite door. So I remember it being great fun for all of us to get really drunk and walk into the wrong bathroom. Happens all the time, and people almost expect it there.
Oh, so it's just set up to kind of confuse people?
Yeah.
I see.
and people that know that will be confused on. And it didn't matter. It's not like people are standing on the other side of the door naked. I mean,
Yeah.
they're washing their hands and
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
So, I mean, in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. So I've walked into the women's restroom. People have done it on accident. There
Yeah.
have been many women who have gone into the men's bathroom because that's the only bathroom
Yep.
open. So this already happens all the time.
It does.
It is not a huge problem.
I feel like it happens a lot more in bars, but yeah.
Yeah. Especially when they got some weird sign that you're trying to be all
Yeah.
nutty between the men and women and you're like 4 drinks into it. You're like, I can barely identify the people I came here with.
Yeah,
I
no,
got to
I-
pick the right bathroom.
I see in a growing number of bars too, where the sinks to wash your hands and the mirrors and everything are shared between the two bathrooms. So you
Oh, yeah,
have
yeah.
the,
So you have a toilet or a stall, back to the single stall thing, and then you have a
Yeah.
communal.
Or you
like
have
in LA,
several stalls
there's a lot of those in LA where you go to bars where there's like a men's stall or a women's stall,
Yeah.
and then they share the sinks
Yes.
and everything else in the shower.
Yeah. So I see that much more often
Yeah.
downtown in downtown Sacramento. Yeah.
I could see that maybe being an easier option to deal with this.
It definitely
that
saves
sort of thing.
space, right? And yes, a different option to deal with it, of course, because once you go behind the area where the stalls are, you're in a stall.
It's private.
It's private. And you can close the stall behind you, and whatever. Nobody even knows who's in there at that point, unless they saw you walking into that section.
There's not a
wouldn't know the
camera that
difference.
shows it outside.
Yeah, there's
Not yet.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, unless they change
Depends
the
on what kind
laws,
of club you're in, I guess.
they can't put they're not legally allowed to put cameras in bathrooms in
Right.
California anyway. I don't know about other.
I always worry when I go to dressing rooms, because not that I'm doing something in the dressing room, but I'm always like, is there a camera in here? Is it a two-way mirror?
The important words there are not legally able. That doesn't mean they're not able.
That's right.
It just
That's true.
means they're not able legally.
Absolutely the truth. Yeah. Well,
What an interesting topic to be confused by.
I'm not confused.
but yeah, I mean, I can. It's just sometimes dealing with how to properly address somebody who is some variation of gender that I have not dealt with before, and or not enough to be comfortable with knowing how to deal
Well,
with.
another thing
and
too is
identify.
I don't think that you can be mad at all people for not being educated on every little aspect of
No, you
these,
can't
these
expect them to, yeah.
variations.
No,
and that's
definitely not.
That's one thing I was saying before about my friend. I was like trying to explain. Look, you can't expect the world to be okay with every decision you make.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, you look at regular life. Every decision you make, your friends aren't going to be 100% on board with.
That's just a good general lesson because there's
Right?
always, and even way outside of this topic, there's always going to be people that are not happy with you doing X, Y, or Z.
Whether it's
and
good
they're
or
gonna
bad
give
for
you
you.
shit about it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to say, I don't give a
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't care. Yep.
I mean,
and,
that's
and to
just-
me, like in the beginning, being a punk rock kid, one of the things I learned earlier is to have a thicker skin
Yep.
and to realize if I want to be an individual or I want to be something, it's a bold move.
Yeah.
And you really have an uphill battle.
That's right.
Because not everyone's going to agree. When the first time I had purple hair, trust me, in Indiana, it did not go over well. But I had to make a decision. I was going to stand by this and be me, or I was going to change so that everybody made me, so I was more comfortable blending into the crowd. And
Yeah.
there was no way I was going to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm not saying that you have to have and a lot of people struggle in these situations, that it's hard to have a tough skin to the world, but there are a lot of people out there, and I think us in general, that are trying to educate ourselves and be more, for lack of a better term, and I hate to use this term, politically correct of everyone's...
Or tolerant.
Or tolerant. That's a way better,
better
term.
word, yeah.
Tolerant of everybody's needs, but it's going to be an uphill battle. We're in a very barbaric
Or
America.
understanding might be better too.
Yeah, understanding. But we're in a very barbaric America where, just how many years ago did we have to have Rosa Parks on the bus? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Wasn't really that long ago,
It wasn't
but
that long
yeah.
ago. We're in a very infancy of our culture here in America, and I'm glad that there's people sticking out and trying to get these things known and educate to the world that there's different people. But it's going to take time.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be
take generations.
It's going to take
people, not-
generations,
not
and it's going to be
years.
a
We're
rough
talking-
transition as well.
We're talking decades upon
And
decades.
to go back to the infrastructure of the bathrooms, that same infrastructure is in our language. So you were like, how
Good
do we
point.
address these people? Some countries have, they, where you can call.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still going to be hard for people to start to learn how to address people, and people are going to make mistakes. That's just
Right.
going to happen. But our infrastructure has built us into this certain way now that we're naturally, address people the way that we do. And just like the bathrooms, slowly it's going to have to change to something that's more sustainable for the larger population of people, or
Right.
all of the people.
You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that. We don't really have we have words, but not ones that are commonly used in everyday speech, in everyday language, to identify and reference people who are not one of the binary genders, a binary gender. That does make it difficult even to a rudimentary foundational level.
But educating people, like with the word "they,"
Yeah.
I mean, in our society in America, to get people to identify that, it's almost like you'd have to go into like grade school era
Yeah.
to get our language and how we identify words to associate with what their identity is.
Which is why I was talking about the next generations coming. They're going to have even that kind of foundational changes made in their life from day one. that it's not even going to be a situation to them that there was a time that there wasn't a they used or whatever term.
But that's going to be a tough battle because we live in a Christian America.
Right.
Oh,
And
that's-
to add the word they in there, to teach children that in schools, oh my God, these
Yeah.
idiots.
well, it's going to
It's
Christians are
better
gonna
for
go
the
nuts.
kids because, they don't have
Because
to
they're more
deal
tolerant.
with. Well, I mean, it's better for the kids because they don't have to deal with
Something that isn't going
our,
away.
Our upbringing. So,
But it's
us
the
naturally
parents
try
and
to
the people
refer
who
somebody
didn't grow
to
up with that
he
are
or
going to resist
she.
it.
We don't necessarily have to do that, but we do because that's the way we've been brought up. That's how we've been taught.
Yeah,
since
and
we
the
were
other thing,
kids.
the other thing too, with respect to the religions, they will at first they'll talk crap and they'll hate it and yada yada yada, but they always bend and change
'Cause they need the
have
money.
because they need the members and they need the money. So eventually they will accept it and they'll start teaching their kids that too, just like they did with the gay community. I mean, if they once they realize there's so many gay people out there and coming out and comfortable in society,
They're gonna start
and
losing
they
numbers.
Still needed numbers. Yeah,
I mean, even the gay subject is a good example because I think we've all lived long enough to kind of see the evolution of that.
Yeah.
And again, like,
and it's still
gay
very
people
new too.
were largely considered pedophiles
Yeah, so stupid. Yeah,
when they
that's
first.
what they turned them into.
Yeah.
But now the focus isn't so much on that, and so we can see that society can slowly change to a point where gay people aren't accepted totally yet, but definitely way more than they
Oh, yeah.
were 20 or 30 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, big time. So it is an ever-changing world. The times they are changing. Yeah, I don't know what else to add to that. All right. On that note, guys, hopefully you found that interesting and are prepared for the societal changes in etiquette and tolerancy and understanding because it's coming. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.